What's up guys, welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. I'm your host Caleb. If you want to support me, you can always use my TCG player link in the description down below, or just like, comment, and subscribe. This week, our weekly budget build is on Tasha. This girl is kind of insane because we're going to use her first ability to cast our opponent's instant and sorcery spells. Now, what's the best way to get a look at their most broken spells? It's mill half their library. If you had mill half their library, that's exactly what we're going to do. And then we get a look at a good portion of their deck. Additionally, we're going to play some broken creatures ourselves, right? That way we can draw some cards, discard some cards, get some massive creatures that want to steal our opponent's stuff in the graveyard, reanimate them, and proceed to steal our opponent's stuff, right? If that sounds like a deck tech you want to get into, let's get into it. Alright guys, let's get into those spells that let us cast our opponent's cards. We have Thief of Sanity, Night Veil Spectre, and Dazzling Sphinx. This is going to allow us to deal combat damage to our opponents, and they're going to be exiling cards from the top of our library that we can then cast. Notably, Dazzling Sphinx you can't whiff on, and you won't be paying mana for that cast. It's going to be super solid. Fiend of Shadows, this one's similar except for you're exiling cards from their hand, which can be kind of broken because it's almost like they discarded it, so it can be a little messed up, but that's okay. Nashi Moonsage's Scion, this one's solid because it's going to hit every opponent, giving us a lot of options, and we're going to be able to pay life for that card, which is going to be super solid. Hostage Taker, this can kind of double as removal. We're going to get rid of their best creature, and then we're going to cast their best creature. Gonti, Lord of Luxury, super solid, digs you deep. Intellect Devourer. This guy's kind of a lightning rod, but he's super solid. He's going to get us 3 cards, and their hand is going to shrink. Chaos Wand, super solid. If you have nothing better to do, just throw 4 mana into this, and then you're going to get a free spell. Along with that, 3/3 Demon. Xander's Pact, super solid because of that casualty ability. Sacrificing those demons is going to be a super way to make sure we can get that casualty ability, and then we're going to get a copy of this spell and a lot of cards to cast with it. Additionally, we won't be paying mana for those spells, we're going to be paying life. Risk it all, right? Havengul Lich, super solid. Not only can we use this to cast our spells from our graveyard, because there is a mill strategy, we can also use it to cast our opponent's creature cards from their graveyard. Predator's Hour. This is going to be solid if we can get a decent board state going. Then we cast this, swing face at our opponents, and exile a lot of cards for us to cast. Rod of Absorption. This one has the potential to be extremely broken. Everybody's going to need to cast instant and sorcery cards to, further their plan. And then we can go ahead and cast all of those instant and sorcery cards as long as we have enough mana to pump into Rod of Absorption, and then we're going to get a lot of demons off of all of those cards that we're casting with this. Rona, Herald of Invasion, a super solid card to draw some cards while getting our big creatures into our graveyard. That discard outlet is definitely going to come in handy. Additionally, we flip this girl over and she's going to be absolutely broken for this deck. No one's going to attack us for fear of us blocking, and that can be pretty valuable, especially since we need to protect our Planeswalker. Arvinox, a giant 9/9 that's going to give us the ability to cast permanent spells we exile from the bottom of our opponent's library. Notably, this guy will be reanimated. We're never casting him outright, and he's not that flexible, but hey, he definitely needed to be shoved in the deck. Brainstealer Dragon. This one's a little more flexible and honestly can deal a lot of damage to our opponents, especially if we have a lot of mana available. This is going to give us a ton of options. Additionally, it's just a 6/6 beater, which is going to be pretty solid, especially when you pair it with the incidental damage we're going to be dealing to our opponents. Rexil, the Risen Deep. Now, this one's pretty solid because it has Island Walk and Swamp Walk, so it's definitely going to be able to get through, and then we're going to get the most broken instant or sorcery spells in our opponent's graveyard and cast them for free. Elder Brain. This one is incredibly messed up. One, it triggers on attack, so it doesn't even need to connect. Additionally, again, it's a 6/6 with Menace, so it probably will connect regardless. Also, then they're just going to discard their whole hand, you're going to exile all those cards, and you're going to be able to cast all those cards. Now, they will draw cards equal to the cards they discarded this way, or that we exiled, but they're going to have their whole game plan derailed, and we're going to have a lot of cards to cast from exile that will create us a ton of demons. Now, let's not forget Tasha can do this as well. All we need to do is make sure we have a lot of targets for those instant and sorcery spells we want to exile. So let's mill them to oblivion. Zelix. This guy's super solid because he's going to give us some 1/1s that can block, protecting our planeswalker. Additionally, he mills cards by himself, so as long as we target the big Timmy player that's playing a lot of creatures, we're going to be able to get those 1/1 black horrors and protect our commander. Additionally, there are several other ways to mill in the deck, so he will create a decent board state. Ruin Crab is another solid way to mill our opponents. Notably, we are playing some of their lands, so we are going to be playing a lot more lands than you would expect in a Dimir deck, so it's going to be super solid. Consuming Aberration, this guy can mill people to an oblivion, and we're going to have a ton of instant and sorcery cards to choose from in no time. Fleet Swallower, another card that we're definitely going to reanimate and not hardcast, but this guy, again, super solid. We're attacking it. This guy does not need to deal combat damage, which is always a plus, and they're just going to mill half of their library. Terizian Mindbreaker, super solid because we are definitely going to unearth this. Again, we're not hard casting this for 7 mana, no way. No, we're going to discard this, make sure it gets into our graveyard, and then simply just cast it for that 4 mana, get the unearth ability, we only need it once, and someone's going to mill half their library. Cut Your Losses, really good because we can use that casualty ability again to go ahead and do this to 2 different players, giving us again a ton of options. Maddening Cacophony, again, I think you know where we're going here, and Traumatize. Everybody's milling half their library, and we are getting a ton of options for our Tasha triggers. Psychic Corrosion. Every time we trigger our Planeswalker to draw a card, they're going to go ahead and mill 2 cards. Again, just filling that graveyard. Breach the Multiverse can be super broken. We're going to have everybody, including us, mill 10 cards, which can help us out, and then we're going to get 4 creatures to choose from each different player. This card can win games. Sir Conrad, speaking of cards that win games, as long as we have this on the battlefield and we are milling that Timmy player, half of his library is gone, you know there's a good chance we could kill some people that way. Duskmantle, this guy will definitely kill some people. All we need to do is activate that ability. Whenever a card is put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere this turn, that player loses 1 life, and then you know we're just going to mill half their library, they're dead. That just sounds like fair magic to me. Now let's reanimate all of those creatures in our graveyard. Altar of Baal, not only can this give us a creature to sacrifice, then we can just exile that creature to bring something back from the graveyard. Additionally, our demons are going to be super solid targets for exiling because they're tokens, right? We don't care if we exile them. Dread Return, another super solid card that we can flash back by sacrificing 3 creatures. Our demons are super disposable, so they're going to be solid targets for this as well. Victimize, again, we're sacrificing our cards to bring more creature cards from our graveyard onto the battlefield. We are not going to be casting those 7 drops, I promise you. Whisper Blood Liturgist, again, we're sacrificing those demons to go ahead and bring cards from our graveyard to the battlefield. We do also run Talran Sky Summoner because we're going to be casting a lot of instant and sorcery spells, as well as Liliana's Talent. If they're going to be attacking our Planeswalker, they're at least going to suffer for it. Additionally, if we do get 8 loyalty on our Planeswalker, this can be a solid game ender. Moving on to card advantage, we have Hostile Negotiations. This reminds me a lot of one of my favorite cards, Fact or Fiction, which we are also running in this deck. This can give you access to a lot of cards. It's going to be a little bit of a choice on our opponent's side, but again, one we're digging 6 cards deep and the other we're digging 5 cards deep. So these are both super solid options. Whispering Madness and Jace's Archivist. These are going to be super solid cards to 1, fill our opponent's graveyards as well as ours, and get us access to the cards we need to make sure our game plan is really functioning. Cut the Prophet, I love this card. Additionally, again, we're just sacrificing those 3/3 demons for value. Sacrifice it, copy this, we're drawing a lot of cards that way. Careful Consideration, we're going to be able to draw a lot of cards and then discard some cards that we don't need. We do run a lot of 8 drops that we're never planning on casting, so if those end up in your hand, we definitely need a way to discard them, right? Chart of Course, again, a solid way to draw some cards while discarding those giant 8 drops, getting them into our graveyard. Dahadi's Ploy, drawing cards, discarding cards, kind of what we're doing. Read the Bones, this digs you pretty deep and make sure you just smooth out your early game, as well as Sign in Blood. Super solid for smoothing out the early game while drawing some cards. Moving on to ramp, we kept it super simple. We have Arcane Signet, Dimir Signet, obviously, Charcoal Diamond, Sky Diamond, we're ramping on turn 2. Wayfarer's Bauble, Fellow War Stone, again, ramp on turn 2 is exactly what we need to stay ahead. Lastly, we have Talisman of Dominance and Soul Ring. Moving on to removal, we have Pylon. I'm definitely giving this card a shot. This can definitely be cast for literally 0 mana in this deck. Additionally, we're going to get a Surveil too, so that's just icing on the cake. Saw It Coming, Exclude, and Counterspell are just really cheap counterspells that we're going to throw in this budget deck. River's Rebuke is going to be amazing for those arch enemy scenarios. Yes, 10 times out of 10, Cyclonic Rift is just better. But again, this will solve all of your arch enemy problems. Invasion of Fiora. I'm giving this battle a shot. It's a solid board wipe, and then we flip it over to Marchesa that can draw us some cards while hosing those counter strategies. Devastation Tide. I like this one because one, we get the miracle cost. Additionally, it pairs really well with our discard will effects. I mean, you know, it's not in there because of that, but it's just super solid at getting rid of the problems, such as token strategies and those treasure strategies, right? With that being said, guys, that brings this deck tech to an end. I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope this helped you in your deck building endeavors.